It was 6:30 a.m. in Chicago's frigid suburbs when my phone buzzed with the text that shattered my world. My 1-year-old daughter Lily was babbling happily in her high chair, completely unaware that her father had just blown up our lives with a single message. The notification simply read, "Moving forward." My stomach knotted painfully as I opened the attachment and saw the photo. Ethan, my husband of 7 years, with his arm wrapped around a stylish brunette who couldn't have been older than 25. They stood proudly in front of our lake house, our sustainable retreat that we'd purchased just last year, the same home where I'd spent countless weekends sketching plans for our family's future while Ethan pretended to listen. "The lake house and your company's prototype data are now mine," the message declared. "I've already moved in with Zoe. My lawyers are preparing the divorce papers. Don't waste your energy fighting, both the property deed and your tech specs are in my possession." I felt my hands trembling as I set down my coffee mug, but not from shock or hurt. This was pure, focused anger coursing through my veins. Ethan really believed he could just text me about divorce and steal both our vacation home and my company's proprietary data? The home I'd purchased with my sustainable food tech startup's first major profits? He had severely miscalculated his position. I glanced at Lily, still innocent and content, experimenting with her organic breakfast. Then my eyes drifted to the sleek digital frame on our kitchen wall, cycling through photos of Ethan and me on our wedding day, both smiling like we were revolutionizing the world together. 7 years of marriage, and this was his exit strategy? A smug text message and a photo flaunting a woman nearly 15 years my junior? I took a deep breath, feeling the tension in my shoulders as I picked up my phone. My finger hovered over Ethan's contact for a moment before I switched to our smart home app instead. Then I opened my messaging app and typed a deceptively simple response, "Interesting assumption. I'd verify those ownership claims before making announcements. The investors might have questions." I hit send, enabled two-factor authentication on all my accounts, and turned to my daughter with a determined smile. Ethan had always underestimated me. He saw me as the supportive wife who'd built a cute little sustainable business while bolstering his corporate career. He probably expected tears, perhaps desperate pleas to reconsider. But he'd forgotten a fundamental truth about me. I didn't create a revolutionary food tech platform by being careless about protecting my innovations. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs. The red flags were waving frantically, but I missed them while balancing our growing company and mothering our new baby. Ethan had been making extended critical project trips to the lake house for the past 6 months, insisting he needed isolation to develop some groundbreaking corporate strategy. I'd built my sustainable food delivery platform from nothing while simultaneously supporting his career ambitions. When we met 8 years ago, I was already running a successful startup with growing investor interest, but Ethan treated it like an adorable side hustle. He loved broadcasting to colleagues how he'd mentored me into business legitimacy. The reality? My company had revolutionized urban food sustainability since our marriage, entirely through my vision and exhausting work. The lake house had been my vision, a sustainable retreat for our family's future. Conveniently located just an hour from Chicago for weekend escapes, yet remote enough to feel genuinely disconnected from urban pressures. I'd funded it entirely with my company's first major sustainability grant profits, but Ethan had insisted his name appear on the deed for optimal tax structuring, he'd claimed. I reluctantly agreed, but only after having Isabel prepare detailed legal documentation establishing the property's actual ownership and environmental trust status. Last week, Ethan had been noticeably withdrawn, spending countless hours on encrypted calls in our home office. When I'd inquired about his mysterious project, he'd become instantly defensive, snapping that I couldn't possibly comprehend the nuances of corporate financial strategy. Rich coming from a man whose entire investment portfolio I'd been quietly optimizing since before Lily's birth, tripling his returns while he remained oblivious. I lifted Lily from her high chair and held her against my chest, drawing comfort from her innocent lavender scent. She had Ethan's curious eyes but my unwavering determination. I could already recognize it in how she persistently tackled each developmental milestone. Meeting her trusting gaze now, my resolve crystallized into something unbreakable. This battle wasn't solely about my company anymore. It was fundamentally about safeguarding her future and the values she would inherit. I carried Lily to my home office, settled her on my hip, and powered up my secure workstation. Within moments, I'd sent Isabel the comprehensive documentation proving I'd purchased the lake house using my company's sustainable investment fund. Then I accessed the cloud-based security system I'd discreetly installed throughout the property, another precautionary measure Ethan knew nothing about. The footage had captured everything, every clandestine meeting, every unauthorized visitor, every calculated betrayal. Zoe might have been celebrating her apparent triumph at our lake house, but she remained completely unaware she was starring in thoroughly documented evidence that would feature prominently in both divorce proceedings and potential corporate espionage charges. My phone vibrated with an urgent message from Olivia, my business partner and CTO. "Morgan, you need to see this immediately." Attached was a link to Zoe's carefully curated social media profiles. There, stretching back over a year, were dozens of intimate photos with Ethan. Several were even staged in our bedroom at the lake house, with her wearing my sustainable designer clothes and using the handcrafted pieces I'd collected from ethical artisans worldwide. Her most recent post displayed her flaunting an enormous emerald ring, my grandmother's heirloom piece, the one Ethan had solemnly promised we would present to Lily on her 18th birthday as a symbol of our family's commitment to enduring value. I felt physically ill. This wasn't a recent indiscretion. Their relationship had been unfolding since before Lily's birth. In one particularly damning photo from 14 months ago, Zoe proudly displayed a key to the lake house. Caption reading, "New sustainable sanctuary with my soulmate." #power couple #new beginnings. While I was nurturing our newborn through sleepless nights and simultaneously preparing crucial investor presentations, Ethan had been playing sustainable power couple with a woman barely finished with graduate school. The timestamps on these posts aligned perfectly with his critical project absences. Every late-night strategy session, every weekend he'd needed to check the property's solar installation, all elaborately constructed deceptions. My hands trembling with controlled fury, I accessed our financial dashboard. That's when the devastating second revelation struck. Our joint sustainable education fund account, where I'd been depositing money for Lily's future and environmental philanthropy, stood completely empty. Every dollar, nearly $250,000 in carefully invested sustainable funds, vanished. Transfer completed yesterday to an offshore account I couldn't immediately trace. The rage I'd felt earlier crystallized into something icily strategic and precisely focused. I immediately contacted our bank's fraud department, then conferenced in Isabel. Within an hour, we had compelling evidence. Ethan had been methodically transferring funds between accounts for at least 9 months, meticulously preparing for this calculated exit. He'd even attempted to breach my company's secure financial infrastructure but failed spectacularly. Those systems, thankfully, were protected by sophisticated security protocols and separate banking architectures that Olivia had insisted on implementing. Olivia's urgent call interrupted my conversation with Isabel. "Morgan, I've uncovered something disturbing." She sent over a series of authenticated screenshots from Zoe's private social network conversations. This ambitious young woman had been gloating to her inner circle about securing a successful tech executive and their elaborate scheme to extract maximum value from his sustainability-obsessed wife. Most infuriating were the messages mockingly discussing my apparent blindness to their plan, too consumed with her little green food delivery app to notice the data extraction happening right under her nose. They had severely underestimated what my little green app had achieved. The sustainable food platform had quietly made me one of the industry's most financially successful innovators, but I'd deliberately kept our profitability metrics confidential, allowing Ethan to believe my business was merely promising rather than revolutionary. His inflated self-importance had prevented him from genuinely examining my company's financial statements or understanding the market-changing technology I'd developed. I gazed at Lily, now sleeping contentedly in her eco-friendly playpen made from recycled materials. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I whispered, feeling fiercely protective. "Mommy's about to deliver an invaluable lesson about underestimating women in sustainable technology leadership." I devoted the next several hours to intense strategic planning. Isabel arrived at our home shortly before midday, bringing her specialized IT forensics team. As we analyzed documentation in my home office, Lily napped upstairs with Olivia monitoring both her and our company's network security. I'd engaged enhanced cybersecurity protocols for both our home and corporate systems. Something warned me Ethan wouldn't respond well to my deliberately ambiguous message. He significantly overestimated his strategic position, Isabel observed, reviewing the comprehensive lake house documentation. The deed may technically bear his name, but we have undeniable evidence that your sustainable business initiative purchased the property, the complete electronic transfer records, the fully executed contracts, even the authenticated message threads where he explicitly acknowledges it was funded through your sustainability grant. Everything is thoroughly documented. I nodded, displaying the cloud security footage on my encrypted laptop. There's substantially more evidence. Examine this timeline. The footage revealed Ethan and Zoe entering the lake house repeatedly throughout recent months, but Isabel was particularly interested in the footage from 48 hours earlier. It clearly documented Ethan systematically removing containers filled with items from the property, including several pieces of sustainable art I'd acquired through my company's cultural investment program. That constitutes attempted misappropriation of corporate assets, Isabel noted, documenting each instance. Those sustainable art pieces were acquired through your company's environmental cultural initiative for tax efficiency. We have comprehensive authentication records. Just then, my secure phone illuminated with an incoming call from an unrecognized number. I activated the speaker function. You believe you're exceptionally clever, don't you? Ethan's voice sounded tense and hostile. Review your corporate email immediately, Morgan. My legal team has been quite productive. I accessed my secure email and felt momentary dismay. Ethan's attorneys had submitted an emergency injunction claiming my sustainable food technology platform had been developed using his technical expertise and industry connections. They were demanding comprehensive financial analysis and temporary administrative control of my company's operational accounts during divorce proceedings. You're actually attempting to seize my company? I maintained my composure despite my pounding heart and rising blood pressure. The sustainable food platform I conceptualized and built years before we even crossed paths? You built? He scoffed with cold derision. Who provided all those essential industry connections? Who facilitated introductions to key venture capitalists and sustainability experts? Face reality, Morgan, you'd be completely irrelevant without my influence. Zoe comprehends this fundamental truth. She demonstrates appropriate appreciation. I muted the call and turned to Isabel, who was already furiously analyzing data on her secure laptop. She raised one finger signaling me to wait. Ethan, I unmuted the call, deliberately stalling for time. I strongly suggest you consider the implications of your current approach. Oh, I've thoroughly considered everything. My legal representatives will be contacting you regarding Lily as well. You're clearly too consumed with your insignificant sustainability crusade to function as an adequate mother. Zoe has exceptional childcare qualifications. She specialized in early childhood development. His threat regarding Lily sent ice through my veins, but before I could formulate a response, Isabel slid her laptop toward me. The screen displayed an authenticated message from 18 months earlier, one Ethan had sent to a venture capital colleague complaining about my growing success. Morgan refuses my strategic business guidance completely, insisting she doesn't require my expertise. Unfortunately, she's absolutely correct. Her sustainable food platform now generates triple my annual compensation package. The situation is professionally humiliating. I allowed myself a controlled smile as I spoke into the phone. Ethan, I've just forwarded something quite interesting to your attorney. You might want to consult with him before continuing with any additional threats concerning my company. What exactly are you implying? Let's just say your supposedly private communications aren't nearly as secure as you believed. Withdraw your legal challenges immediately, or my next communication will be directed to your board members. I wonder how they'd respond to learning about those invaluable industry connections you've been claiming credit for providing." The line remained silent momentarily, then abruptly disconnected. Isabel continued methodically examining Ethan's digital footprint when Olivia burst into the office, her expression tense with urgency. "Morgan, you need to review this information immediately." She positioned her encrypted tablet directly in front of me. The screen displayed a confidential draft press announcement from Ethan's corporation announcing his advancement to Chief Financial Officer, effective in 3 weeks. Suddenly everything aligned perfectly: the carefully planned timing of his relationship with Zoe, the strategic financial manipulations, the aggressive legal maneuvers. This wasn't merely about ending our marriage, he was optimizing his personal assets before his significant promotion, attempting to secure valuable resources while minimizing potential losses through divorce proceedings. "There's substantially more to this situation." Olivia swiped to another confidential document. "Zoe isn't randomly selected. She's Victor's niece, the CEO's favorite family connection." The revelation hit me physically. Ethan hadn't genuinely fallen for a younger woman, he'd strategically cultivated a relationship with the CEO's beloved niece to secure his professional advancement. The Lake House property, our stolen sustainable education fund, even the threats regarding Lily, everything constituted calculated components in his comprehensive plan to launch his new existence as CFO with his perfectly positioned, professionally advantageous young partner. Isabel looked up from her detailed analysis. "Morgan, I've discovered something equally concerning. The corporate merger Ethan's been developing? It directly targets one of your primary sustainable food technology competitors for hostile acquisition. When he officially becomes CFO, he'll gain authorized access to proprietary information that could fundamentally undermine your company's market position and sustainability innovations." My hands balled into tight fists, nails digging into my palms. Ethan wasn't merely orchestrating a personal betrayal, he was strategically positioning himself to systematically dismantle everything I'd built and believed in. I flashed back to all those late nights he'd spent in his home office supposedly developing merger proposals. Had he actually been infiltrating my company's sustainability research database? "Run a complete security audit on our home network," I instructed Olivia. "Focus specifically on any unauthorized attempts to access our company's proprietary cloud infrastructure." While Olivia initiated her cybersecurity analysis, Isabel uncovered something even more disturbing. "Review these authenticated message exchanges between Ethan and Zoe from 8 months ago. They were actively constructing this scheme before Lily could even stand independently." Zoe wrote, "Once you secure the CFO position, we can leverage that insider access to systematically undermine Morgan's sustainable food platform. Uncle Victor has already committed resources to help dismantle her ethical business delusions." I felt physically ill contemplating how methodically they had plotted against both me and my company's mission while I was nurturing our infant daughter and advancing sustainable food systems. Yet their arrogant certainty had made them careless. They'd created an extensive digital evidence trail that could potentially devastate not just Ethan's promotion prospects but Victor's entire professional reputation within the sustainability sector. Olivia's urgent voice interrupted my thoughts, confirmed multiple intrusion attempts. Ethan's personal devices tried accessing our secure development servers at least 17 times over the past 3 months. Our multi-layer authentication prevented any successful breaches, but these repeated attempts constitute clear evidence of attempted corporate espionage. I stood and walked deliberately to the window, watching Lily contentedly exploring her playpen with her favorite recycled fabric giraffe. Ethan believed himself exceptionally clever, exploiting his relationship with Zoe to secure his professional future, but he'd overlooked the most fundamental principle of sustainable business. Resilient systems always have protective redundancies built in. "Isabel," I turned decisively toward my attorney, "prepare a comprehensive disclosure for the Investment Consortium and Ethical Business Alliance. Include documented evidence of Ethan's attempted corporate espionage, Victor's involvement in targeting a sustainability innovator, and the security footage showing systematic removal of company assets from our lake property." "What approach regarding Zoe?" Olivia questioned. My expression hardened with resolve. I believe ethical investors will find particular interest in how a tech corporation's CEO deployed a family member to help orchestrate industrial espionage against a sustainable business competitor, don't you think? Just as we were finalizing our strategic response, my phone alerted me with a security notification from our lake house monitoring system. Ethan had returned, and he wasn't alone. Accompanying him were both Zoe and her uncle Victor, the CEO himself. They were transferring additional containers into the house, more of my sustainable design pieces and technical prototypes, undoubtedly. Pause the disclosure, I instructed Isabel, intently studying the live security feed. Let's observe their current activities first. Through our encrypted cloud surveillance system, we watched them gathering in the living room, expensive champagne flutes raised in celebration. To our future chief financial officer, Victor elevated his glass toward Ethan. And to my extraordinarily talented niece who facilitated this entire opportunity, Ethan laughed with smug satisfaction. Morgan remains completely oblivious to what awaits her. Tomorrow morning, the board formally announces my appointment, and by mid-afternoon, our legal department will have established control over her company's financial operations for comprehensive audit purposes. Within 30 days, her precious sustainable food platform will be completely devalued. And what she doesn't realize, Zoe added with obvious delight, is that she's obsessing over the lake house when it's merely a distraction. Wait until she discovers the international cryptocurrency accounts. I tensed immediately. Olivia, what cryptocurrency accounts? Olivia's fingers flew across her keyboard with practiced precision. Within minutes, her expression darkened noticeably. Located multiple unauthorized accounts. Ethan has been systematically diverting funds from our joint finances into untraceable cryptocurrency wallets for at least 9 months, far beyond just Lily's education fund. He's successfully redirected nearly $350,000 in total assets. This conspiracy was far more extensive than I'd initially realized. Ethan hadn't merely been planning his exit strategy, he'd been methodically misappropriating our family's financial resources for months. The lake house situation was deliberately engineered as misdirection from his more sophisticated financial scheme. But then Victor said something that sent ice through my veins. Once Morgan's sustainable food platform collapses, our corporate acquisition proceeds without regulatory scrutiny. Her market innovation will be divided among our traditional subsidiaries, and that problematic ethical business philosophy she promotes will become entirely irrelevant to industry standards. My company wasn't merely successful financially, it was fundamentally disrupting their entire industry with our unwavering commitment to sustainable food systems and equitable labor practices. This went beyond Ethan's promotion or his relationship with Zoe. They were determined to systematically dismantle everything I'd built because it challenged their extractive business paradigm. Initiate the disclosure process, I instructed Isabel decisively. But first, incorporate one additional element. Access our secure backup environment, authentication, Lily's birth date, and attach the file designated contingency protocol. Isabel's eyes widened perceptibly as she opened the encrypted file. It contained 3 years of meticulously organized documentation detailing ethically questionable practices throughout Ethan's corporation, information I'd systematically compiled while optimizing his investment strategies. I'd maintained it as protective contingency planning, never truly believing I would need to utilize it. Morgan, Olivia interrupted urgently, focused intently on her monitoring dashboard. Ethan is currently attempting to access our platform's development servers again from the Lakehouse system. His desperation is escalating. I observed through the security feed as Ethan excused himself from the celebration, moving directly to my sustainable design studio. He positioned himself at my reclaimed wood desk, clearly attempting another breach of our company infrastructure. But this time, our security team was fully prepared. They'd engineered a convincing honeypot environment, creating the illusion of successful access. Allow controlled engagement, I instructed Olivia. Let him believe he's succeeded, because within approximately 12 minutes, our comprehensive disclosure reaches the entire Sustainable Investment Consortium, and their carefully constructed deception collapses completely. Isabel looked up from her secure workstation. Disclosure package fully prepared. Should I initiate transmission? I took one final analytical look at the security feed. Ethan, Zoe, and Victor continued celebrating their presumed inevitable victory. Execute now. The response arrived with unexpected speed. Within minutes of Isabel transmitting our evidence package, Victor's phone demanded his attention. Through our security monitoring, we observed his face drain of color as he processed what I presumed was the investment consortium's immediate reaction. What exactly constitutes an emergency sustainability ethics investigation? He demanded into his phone. Who provided what specific evidence? Ethan frantically grabbed his own device, presumably reviewing the incoming notifications. The confidence visibly drained from his expression. The secure development servers, she detected everything. Morgan knew I was attempting to access her sustainability technology. The situation continues developing, I whispered to Isabel as we monitored the unfolding scenario. Watch what happens next. Right on schedule, Zoe's phone began lighting up with continuous notifications. Someone had anonymously forwarded her private message exchanges to every member of the Ethical Business Alliance. The conversations where she boasted about helping Ethan misappropriate proprietary sustainability technology and corporate information. The security monitoring system captured the precise moment their triumphant celebration transformed into absolute panic. Victor was shouting frantically into his phone, Ethan was desperately attempting to shut down his laptop, and Zoe stood frozen in shock, her carefully applied makeup streaking down her face as reality crashed in. Then came the unmistakable sound of authority arriving, cybersecurity officials and federal agents converging on the lake house, emergency lights reflecting off the water. Apparently, attempted technology theft and systematic financial fraud against sustainable businesses trigger serious federal investigations. Who would have thought? I lifted Lily into my arms, holding her securely as we watched events unfold through our encrypted feed. See that, precious girl? That's what happens when people dismiss your mommy's commitment to building ethical, sustainable systems. The final image before our connection temporarily disrupted showed Ethan being escorted out under official supervision, still insisting loudly that the sustainable property was rightfully his. The aftermath was both swift and comprehensive. Within 72 hours, both Ethan and Victor had been permanently removed from their positions. The board's independent investigation uncovered substantially more than I'd initially discovered, not merely the conspiracy against my sustainable food platform but years of systematic ethical violations throughout the organization. Zoe's documented participation in corporate espionage completely devastated her carefully crafted social media presence and influencer aspirations. According to recent industry reporting, she's relocated to her parents' suburban home in Michigan, pursuing a much lower-profile existence. The cryptocurrency accounts were immediately frozen and thoroughly investigated by financial authorities. Every dollar Ethan had misappropriated was returned with substantial penalties and interest. The lake house? It turns out that documented attempts to steal company-funded sustainable assets creates an exceptionally strong case for property forfeiture. The deed was properly transferred into my name and our sustainable trust, where it legitimately belonged from the beginning. Ethan attempted multiple apologies, sending elaborate messages about how he had temporarily lost his ethical compass and been influenced by corporate pressure and an ambitious relationship. I never acknowledged these communications. The divorce settlement was unambiguous, he forfeited everything he had attempted to misappropriate, plus significant additional penalties. The extensively documented evidence of his corporate espionage effectively ended any possibility of his future employment in financial technology. As for my company, our sustainable food platform's ethical business model attracted significantly increased investment following the public exposure of this corporate scandal. We successfully expanded into markets previously dominated by traditional food distribution systems, our reputation for environmental integrity and transparency attracting consumers increasingly disenchanted with conventional business practices. Lily and I spend our weekends at the lake house now, creating positive memories in our sustainable sanctuary. Sometimes, while sitting on the reclaimed wood deck watching her explore nature, I reflect on Ethan's arrogant message with that revealing photograph. He believed he was announcing his definitive victory, when in reality, he was simply documenting the beginning of his comprehensive downfall. I preserved that initial message, by the way. It's professionally framed in my corporate headquarters, a powerful reminder to never underestimate a woman who's built something genuinely worth protecting.